Barnaby Jones will return next Thursday night at 10, 9 Central and Mountain on most of these stations.
Hi again, everybody. Welcome back. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Always happy to welcome Ed Catto back to Word Balloon, whether it's talking about Captain Action, which we will be doing tonight, but also the great work that he does with Ithaca College and Ithacon every year. Very exciting news for Ed. He got a promotion at one of our favorite Tomorrow magazines. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you so much, John. Great to be here. Good to have you. And I think I probably always say it. I always feel like you commute with me into work. Love listening to Word Balloon on the commute. Just fantastic.
I appreciate that, man. Well, I was already enjoying your work in this magazine, and now you're going to become the editor-in-chief with the next issue. Retrofan. This is the current issue that is out in September. And it's Mike Urey, who's done an excellent job at Tomorrow's with back issue and Retrofan. Did he edit at other magazines as well?
Yeah, no, he really started both those magazines, and those have been labors of love. They've been big labors, Herculean labors, I guess. He's done them for a number of years. He's going to be retiring on Friday, and he's left both in the hands of some other folks. Got a great fellow who's doing back issue magazine, and then I'll be taking over for Retrofan magazine.
Outstanding, man. No, I'm excited. And really, everybody, if you love 20th century pop culture, really from the 50s, I would say, through the 90s, this is your magazine. And truly, you can see from this cover, there's John and Ponch from Chips, but the Plastic Man cartoon, the Steve Reeves Hercules movies. Scott Shaw, fantastic article about personal recollections of John Candy, because Scott was the animator in charge of Camp Candy, the fantastic 90s cartoon.
That's right.
He's told me stories when he's been on Word Balloon. Remo Williams, Will Murray, the fantastic writer of so many great things. Didn't Will do a Captain Action, or... Am I wrong?
Will did not, but we always loved all his like Doc Savage stuff, just one step over.
Yeah, and Green Hornet. I think he did a Green Hornet and stuff. And no, he's a great modern pulp writer. No, these are great articles. In fact, beyond the cover, I can even go inside the magazine and just kind of scroll through and show everybody just what the layout looks like. And also the fact that, no, why won't this let me do this?
Yeah, we've got a great designer, Scott Saavedra, who lays things out. And, there's a lot of content, and I'm a bookworm. I love to read, but, that whole mix of great images, nostalgic images, but also new information, new images that, provide you with like another way to enjoy this thing that you always enjoyed in the past. It's kind of
there you go.
Sauce.
Okay. Yeah. Here's the magazine. Like I said, I'm going to vertically scroll. By the way, another Tomorrow's production starting in November, Cryptology. Here's an ad for it.
Oh, that sounds all like horror comics, magazines, movies. That's going to be a killer magazine.
I bet, man. Yeah. There's a feature on Tiny Tim that is really amazing. And man, Tiny Tim, I'm sure you've heard the name, everybody. Tiptoe Through the Tulips. But this really points out what kind of pop icon he was in that late 60s, early 70s period. God, just really great stuff. Another thing, and it's on page 23, Bill Campbell's Weirdo Bubblegum art. And that's a great art in there. So here you go, everybody. I mean, there's, great long article, but fantastic photos of Chip's toys as well. And really, look how many are, I mean, here, even Chips 99, the reunion movie. I love all those 90s reunion movies of different TV shows.
Oh, me
Shots
too.
of the cast. Great stuff, man. There's Tiny Tim and all the people. Tiny Tim, there he is on Laughing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of those articles, like I think Retrofan has always done a great job with, where it's a star that I kind of knew a little bit about. I couldn't really tell you much, and as usual, there's like this great story behind Tiny Tim, probably more applicable today in 2024 than even in the late 60s when he burst onto the scene. And
yeah, go on. Yeah, I agree.
You start reading, you're like, I can't believe I just read 3 pages on Tiny Tim and I want to learn more. And that's the fun of it.
Well, yeah, and you're right. I would his like 15 minutes of fame is very much like some of these internet sensations that are happening these days. So I hear what you're saying. Here's an ad for previous issues, which of course Tomorrow's is always great about all their publications, even the ones that they don't print anymore. You can usually, at the very least, get a digital copy, if not a hard copy. And then Bill Campbell, God, I remember this kind of crazy art that he used to do, and those models. Yeah, great stuff.
Oh yeah, I think like my mom wouldn't let me buy those models because they were too, weird or creepy or whatever.
Sure.
But they're beautiful. It's like
that's
bad boys would use or play with.
Oh yeah, well it's that lowbrow art, as they call it. And again, no, guys like Bill Campbell were amazing. So you get his story and how some of this stuff came about. And again, beautiful art. Here's the John Candy article that you got from Scott Shaw, which is great.
And that's great. I mean, and Scott has done all these amazing things in his life and interacted with amazing things. And like in this case, John Candy became a friend of his, but he's able to kind of, be a big fan, but also provide all kinds of interesting information too. And
totally.
He's done an amazing Second City TV article that's coming up. We just proofread that one, and it's killer. It's just so much fun.
Oh, I bet. Again, there's a guy that's been on Word Balloon, and we've talked about things like SCTV and Camp Candy and the Ed Grimley cartoon as well. It's great. And you're really, a lot of your contributors, and you were one as well, they're regulars like Will Murray, like Scott Shaw, and Andy Mangels, who we're going to come up to soon, and who did the great Plastic Man story in this current issue that comes out again in September. This is and listen, man, I like trivia quizzes, but I like trivia quizzes that really challenge you. And in this issue, all of these guys, and it continues on the next page, were guest star villains on Hawaii Five-0, and you got to figure out what their characters' names were.
Yeah, right. Isn't
the bad guy characters? And the only one that I remember by name is Gavin McLeod here, and it's hilarious because he played a hippie drug dealer. Do you remember his name?
No, I've got to look.
Big Chicken. That was his gangster nickname, Big Chicken.
Yeah, that's a good gangster nickname.
Absolutely. Here's the Hercules article. Another subject that I remember Saturday mornings, not only seeing the Hercules movies, but the other Italian sword and sandal movies of the era, the Sons of Hercules, as they called them.
Yep.
Great stuff, man. No, this is a great article, and we're going to get to Andy, I think. First, Disney, the search for my family's Disney artist. Interesting.
Yeah, and now the fellow who wrote this, he does a great job, and he always does these esoteric things, Scott Saavedra, and he's also the designer for this magazine. So,
wow.
The Starsky and Hutch thing is I'm editor-in-chief and he's designer. And I love the look. I mean, I've worked with a lot of creatives over time, but I'm really excited to work with him because I dig all the stuff he does.
No, the layouts for this, and really, it's a good looking magazine, not only from a content standpoint, but the layouts and everything. It really is great. So here's Andy Mangels and his Plastic Man retrospective, mostly about the cartoon. And God, even Superman made a cameo, which is hilarious.
and it's kind of fascinating the way, like in that one, he talks about all the different tries for the cartoon in different ways, and even the fellow who is the voice of SpongeBob, who grew up one town over from where I'm at now. He was associated with the project a few times, and
there's the voice of Plastic Man, Michael Bell.
Yeah, right.
Pretty cool. Yeah, no, this is, and again, I've read other issues of Retro Fan over the years, and it's great. It really is great.
Yeah, there we go. There's the fellow who's what's his name? John. Right up there. Up one more, John. Yeah. Jeez.
Is that Larry Kenny or?
No, it's the fellow who's the voice of SpongeBob.
Oh, Tom Kenny.
Yes, that's it. Tom Kenny. Yeah.
Very cool.
And, and he was involved as they were trying to develop it a few times, and then he ended up like being the voice on the Brave and the Bold version of Plastic Man. And
there you go. And there's a cell from it.
Yeah, I had no idea about, but I learned it all through Scott's great article, or Andy's article.
Well, yeah, Andy is a great pop culture historian, and as I've told him as well, writes a damn good Star Trek novel when it's asked to do so. Yeah, Andy's great. Andy's great, and Andy's usually a guy that I would always see at San Diego, and I haven't been to San Diego lately. But
yeah, we're always on this licensing panel together, and I love to sit next to Andy because he's always like cracking wise the whole time. He's such a
I believe it.
Funny guy.
And he really, in his credits in this article, you mentioned, or I should say, Michael, creating the Filmation generation, his book about Filmation and Lou Scheimer. Right. And I saw Lou at his last San Diego, and it was a little sad because he even confessed in the panel, I am suffering from Alzheimer's, so I may not have an answer for you. I'm glad Andy is next to me because before it really got bad, I was really able to tell my whole story to Andy, and it's in the book and everything. And Michael Gray was also with Billy Batson from the Shazam. I'm sure Retro Fan has done an article about the Shazam. If not, I'm sure they're going to.
Yeah.
And also Sid. Oh God, what was his name? He's a character actor. He's in a million things. He did a Batman episode. I can't think of Sid's last name. Maybe somebody in the chat will. Sid, he was on that Jason of Star Command Saturday morning live action show, and he was the bad guy on there. And unfortunately, I cannot think of his name, everybody. But like I said, maybe in the chat someone will. And we're getting nice. Here we go. For instance, a couple comments. Stephen Commander says, "Good evening to you and me, my back issue magazine buddy Ed."
Yeah.
And, he says Michael Bell is amazing.
You're right, Steve.
And Steve Small says, "I have to agree. Tomorrow's Publishing prints fantastic content." And of course, Steve also came up with the name I was looking for, and that is Sid Haig.
There you go. Good
Sid
call,
Haig,
Small.
A bad guy that didn't need makeup to look bad. It's an evil looking face. But yeah, he was on that panel too. And he had great memories of doing Jason of Star Command and all that stuff. So.
Oh, yeah. Was he evil in real life, John, or was he really nice?
He seemed nice. It was, he's getting older. So I think he was in House of a Thousand Corpses, the movie that the heavy metal guy made of horror movie.
Zombie.
Say his name again. Rob Zombie.
Yeah, right.
All right. The Alzheimer's in my house is probably at full tilt right now.
Oh,
so anyway. But that'll give you a taste of what to expect in Retro Fan. So Ed, is it a bi-monthly? Is it a monthly? What is it?
Yeah, so we're bi-monthly. We're every other month, and I think that's good because sometimes, like I've said a million times to the folks, the management, John Morrow and everybody, sometimes I wouldn't buy a magazine because I'd be like really busy. And it's like I can't get sucked down that hole. I know I'm gonna love 3 articles, and then like the other 4 I'll stumble across and really start digging them. And so I feel like bi-monthly is just about right. And the way Retrofan works, as opposed to like the Back Issue magazine, and that's actually the one that I was writing for, Back Issue magazine. Retrofan kind of has like a standard stable of A+ writers, and then we sprinkle in 1 or 2 folks every issue. So you've got all the standards, like the New York Times has, Maureen Dowd and whoever.
Sure.
This has all these great writers, probably better than Maureen Dowd actually, and all these great writers, and then like someone else who has insights on one particular thing, so it gives other people an opportunity, and it makes it a nice, such a nice blend of things.
Well, as I've said, I've always liked Andy Mangel's writing, both in a nonfiction way and a fiction way. Same goes with Will Murray. I'm always a fan of his stuff, and as I've gotten to know Scott Shaw, I appreciate his ideas and the people that he's come in contact with. No, you got a great stable of writers, man. And tomorrow, I was telling you when you told me you got the gig, my habit would be when I'm in either at the New York show or at San Diego, they always have their booth. And a lot of times they will have advanced issues before they're actually on the stands. So I would invariably buy at least 2, if not 4, issues of Back Issue or Alter Ego, Roy Thomas's magazine, Through Tomorrows, and Retrofan. And I would read them on the plane flying back from, the 4-hour trip back to Chicago. Yeah. And it's like, or great hotel bathroom reading as well.
Oh,
and I mean that as the highest compliment.
I love it. I love it for the plane. In fact, the next issue has a big Scott Shaw Space Ghost article, and that one was on sale at San Diego, and you could see so many people doing that John Suntress strategy of like snapping it up early and really enjoying it. And it's a great it's a great way to do it, and keeps it so much fun.
Hey, 2 Hours has always done right by me. A writer, Eric Houston, for them, wrote the comic book podcast Companion.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 2007 or 8. And I'm chapter 2 in that, which was quite an honor. And I'm like, hey, that's awesome. I'm in a Tomorrow's publication. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Wow. So well, you should be. Yeah. There's a lot of great, there's a lot of great books across the spectrum. Kirby Collector, Alter Ego, John Cook, comic book creator, has Denny O'Neil this month, who I know you were chummy with, and next go round is the next? I think the next one is Tom Palmer, and then Steve Englehart. It's just like, man, like I can't wait for that issue. I can't wait for that issue. It makes it so.
And my buddy Mike Cronenberg does a lot of covers for them. And I don't know if he's the art director or not for the interiors, but I know that, again, he designs a lot of cover work for them.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he does all the pulp stuff too, right? Is that
right? Yeah, he works with Eddie Muller on the Noir Foundation magazine, and he also with Bill Detloff puts together Ringside magazine, one of my favorite boxing magazines.
Oh yeah, that Film Noir magazine is one of the few other genre magazines I get, and great magazine.
Well, just like that magazine, you take full advantage of whatever photos are out there. People could tell from the way I scrolled through the magazine as we were looking at it. Yeah, you guys collect great archival kind of classic publicity photo stuff, but also you find the toys and the tie-ins and everything else. And no, it makes, as Stephen Commander just said in the chat, Tomorrow's is like the PBS of comics. It's fun and it's educational. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
I so agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we try and find I think that it's kind of a fine line to walk, because it's not all just wallowing in nostalgia. I think that we're a a smarter group of pop culture enthusiasts now. So you want to be nostalgic, and then if you could learn something or find this fascinating story, it's almost like another way to enjoy the property again.
It makes you want to revisit a lot of these properties as well, and I absolutely feel that way.
I mean, we were talking about like Name of the Game coming up soon, which I know is a sweet spot. Like all those, Columbo, Rockford, all those, 70s shows that, even if you watch every episode, there's still more to learn. You'd be like, son of a gun, that's kind of interesting what they did in that thing and why that happened.
In the last couple days, and I'm sorry I don't remember the YouTuber that assembled this channel, and I'm surprised Universal or somebody hasn't come after him to yank this stuff down, but he has a lot of TV shows that Peacock does not run that Universal could run on the Peacock streamer and stuff. And all right, here's a couple only one season shows. And Ed, I want to know, and I'll give you all the information, but I want to know if you remember these shows.
Yeah.
I discovered this 1971 George Kennedy Universal drama, and it was called Sarge. And he was a former cop, and he was married to Diane Baker, one of the great character actresses of the 60s and 70s. And her character dies in the pilot, and he's of course that classic retiring cop.
Yeah.
And is going to retire and relax. Well, his wife blows up, so he becomes a priest, and that was his other lifelong dream, was to become a priest. So now he is a new priest in this order,
and he solves mysteries and gets bad guys.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a crime fighter, cop turned priest.
I love it. Where's the reboot?
It's great. It's George Kennedy's crime.
It writes itself. I love that concept. That's so funny.
Well, and then I found another one that I always thought was called Blake's Magic from the 80s, late 80s, and it was Black's Magic. And I love the stars, Hal Linden and Harry Morgan.
Wow.
And they're a father and son, and Hal Linden is this very famous magician, and Harry Morgan is his con man father. And
that rings a bell.
You know why it suddenly went up a notch, and it made me want to watch the episodes in full? A lot of first of all, the executive producers were Levinson and Link, who also produced Columbo, and also produced Banachek, and the Jim Hutton Ellery Queen show, which I would recommend as a great retro fan article.
That should be on the short list, man. I can remember eating that show up and then like going to read the Ellery Queen books in the library and be so disappointed because they were nothing like the adaptation for me was better than the source material.
Sure. And the great thing about the Ellery Queen show was it was set in the 40s when the books were at their highest popularity, and a lot of old Hollywood actors would be guest stars.
Yeah.
We really have a lot of old Hollywood actors showing up on it, and it only lasted one season. But Jackson Gill and Peter S. Oh, I forget his last name now. But they are recognizable names of specific Columbo episodes. And they wrote, it looks like, virtually all the scripts for Black's Magic. So these guys know the murder procedural.
Sure.
They've got it down. And I think even though it's a show that didn't make it, it's not because of quality. There's a million reasons why a show doesn't make it. And a lot of times it's competition, a bad time slot, all those a different regime in charge of the network.
Yeah, sure.
That just doesn't care for it and wants to get rid of it. So, I mean, one of our favorite 60s shows, The Prisoner.
Yeah.
Only 17 episodes,
Right. Should have been some more. Yeah, all those things. And, sometimes too, like, I think it almost makes it a little more fun, right? Like it didn't jump the shark in season 5 because there was only just one season of it. And, you can, for whatever the property is, you get your arms around it a little bit.
Robert Costanzo, the great character actor who comic book people will remember played Harvey Bullock in the Batman animated series. And I know they've done Bullock in live action, and it's like, I don't know why they never used Costanzo because he looks like Harvey Bullock.
Oh, yeah.
But he and I were talking about a show that didn't make it from the mid-90s, and it was Mark, NCIS, Mark
Harmon.
Mark Harmon, yeah. And he was the lead. And it was, oh, really?
Yeah, crazy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, but he was like his guy on the street, wise guy that would give him inside information on this show. And I want to say it was called Charlie Green. Everybody can look it up on your own on IMDb and Mark Harmon, and you'll find it. And there are several episodes of that. It was a good show. It just had a bad time slot or whatever. It didn't make it.
Oh yeah, yeah. What a shame. What a shame. But that
Yeah.
that like little stroll down memory lane that you and I are doing is, what we do every other month now in Retro Fan, and it's inordinately fun and finding out, and even like the character actors who were in one thing or the other, or the writer, or how it all fits together.
Yeah.
I was saying like to somebody how, in the old days you'd watch a show and you'd be concerned like what's going to happen to the character, like, oh, next time. But now, like people who aren't into it will be like, well, I hope this show gets renewed for a second season on Netflix, and here's what's going on, here's what's not. And everybody's got like a higher level of understanding of pop culture. And, by diving into these articles gives you an opportunity to do this on some of the stuff in the past that you weren't able to do back in the old days. Like I never knew anything that, was going on with the Rockford Files when I'd watch it. And
Sure.
then, and now you're like, oh, now I see what's happened. Now I get it.
Well, in both the cases of Columbo and Rockford Files, there was a work stoppage because the stars were renegotiating their contracts.
Right.
And especially, I know, like, things got really nasty between James Garner and Universal during the production of the Rockford Files, because he kind of got screwed in the Maverick days, because he was under, even though the show was literally the top show in the late 50s and early 60s, at first he made $750 a week, and then he got $1,500 a week.
Yeah.
And they were making millions even back then off the show.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why he left after the third season.
Yeah, he wasn't in the final seasons. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It lasted 2 more seasons with Jack Kelly and a bunch of other Mavericks and stuff. Here, JD remembers George Kennedy as the Blue Knight.
Right.
Remember that?
Yep. That was a long one.
And he also mentions the Sixth Sense TV show. That was Gary. Not Gary. He was married to Marianne Mobley. Gary, I forget his last name.
Yeah.
Help me out, JD, if you're still watching.
Yeah.
Gary Collins.
Right.
And in syndication, they put the Sixth Sense in. Thank you, Dan Reba, and I'm glad you're watching. A fine animation man. Yes, Collins. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Dan, I got to bug you about coming on, man. We got to talk about Batman the Animated Series, and if you like Cape Crusader on Amazon currently, which obviously echoes a lot of the best stuff about the animated series, I think. But yeah, they folded episodes of The Sixth Sense into the Night Gallery syndication package. So there's an opening with a Rod Serling intro and a crazy painting, but then they cut to a procedural and The Sixth Sense being ESP, which Gary Collins had on the show. And it's really more of a straight up, crime procedural, and the slight bit of science fiction, if that, is the fact that he was an ESPN. I was going to say an ESPN guy, an ESP guy.
Your sports career.
That'd be even more interesting if he was a sportscaster with ESP and solving crimes.
Yeah, what's Keith Olbermann doing here? Oh my God.
Exactly. I don't like the looks of that guy. I think we found our suspect. It reminds me of when there was one of these like throwaway back and forths on the West Wing, and they were going to L.A. and some big Hollywood producer was holding a party, and Rob Lowe's like, "I'm ready for my pitch to him on a TV series. What's that? Pilgrims solving crimes in Pilgrim time. Big hats, but they're solving crimes." And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Good luck with that one, Rob. Yeah.
Exactly. No, and it was great. And I'm sure the guy, Toby, the press secretary, is just like, yeah, all right.
Yeah. I guess everybody's got, everyone's got that idea. If only Hollywood would recognize me. Yeah.
It's true. It's absolutely true.
How funny.
Oh, God. Have you, I know you've, and I don't even know, and forgive me, regarding our next subject, Captain Action.
Sure.
Is he still in animation development?
Yeah, so Captain Action has been a labor of love. We assumed ownership of Captain Action. Um, God, it's been about 15 years now, and we've had a great line of toys, and we've done a lot. We've come close to animation a couple times, and we're coming close again. And I mean, gosh, I guess that's all the retro fan articles of 15 years from now. And so yeah, so we're working hard, and the new news that we have is we have some new figures coming out. This is great group LBO. We showed it last San Diego, and yeah, here's our new reimagining of the characters. Captain Action, that's a new guy in the back, Major Action, and then Doctor Evil is even creepier than ever, and we've got a great take on Doctor Evil, and we actually have another. Oh, I should have sent you and we've got another new bad guy that ties in with all kinds of things that we're doing. But
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Excellent.
yeah,
Well, beyond that, the big news too that you can pre-order is you can get a Rocketeer Captain Action thing, and here we'll show you some of
yeah,
the. There he is, and there he is.
yeah. So
That's going to look great.
oh yeah, absolutely. Part of Captain Action and the fun is the whole element of licensing and licensed characters and getting the figure and then getting these licensed characters. And we're working with the Dave Stevens estate, and we're thrilled to be working with them. And we're all kind of big Dave Stevens fans at Captain Action headquarters, of course. And to be able to have an outfit with Captain Action and Rocketeer will be so much fun. There's a little bit of, I don't know how deep you are into this, John, but the Disney character had a rocket pack with kind of like 2 cylinders.
Yeah.
Dave Stevens version that the estate still controls has that classic rocket pack stolen from Doc Savage, right? And
Okay.
yeah, and so we're using that and leveraging into that, and it should be a lot of fun. It's on pre-order now, so we're selling these on the captainaction.com website, which will take you right to either order the figure or the Rocketeer set. I want to tell everybody who's listening too that if you join the Action Army, kind of like our mailing list at captainaction.com, we give you best pricing. I shouldn't say discounts, but they're discounts. We give best pricing to everybody. So it's a cool way. And, having been through like selling these things through Toys R Us of lesser quality, these are very high quality. We're selling direct. The game has changed now in 15 years, how to sell 1/6 scale action figures. And that's okay. And we're kind of jumping on board and having a lot of fun with that too.
JD, I think, is asking if you guys have done Captain Action with the Green Hornet mask and costume.
Yeah, sure. So Green Hornet was one of the original costumes in the 60s. And then when they redid right before we came on board, they redid the Green Hornet, and they even had a Catto, Bruce Lee Catto version for that too. And yeah, Green Hornet's always been a favorite. I'm not sure if we'll have him on the short list. Eventually we'd love to get to him, but there's a lot of Captain Action outfits out there already on eBay, and we're really trying to do some new things and have some fun with some new stuff.
And in our conversations in the past, we've talked about the fact that, like, to do a new Thor, you had Walt Simonson design the mask. So it really is a comic genuine Thor.
From, one of the greats. Like the Thors that we did, I guess I don't. Yeah, Thor was funny. So, at that time, the Marvel licensing department had a style guide, and you can pick whatever you want for the packaging. And we're like, we don't like any of these illustrators. It's like too much Vince Coletta inks. And they're like, what? What? Vince Coletta inks? What's that mean? And so we're like, we want to use this, this, and this. And then our mutual great pal, Jeff Vaughn, had hired Walter to do a fantastic cover for Overstreet one year.
Yeah, the price guide, the comic price guide.
Comic
Sure.
book price guide. And so we did this crazy deal where we used that art, we got it recolored, and it was beautiful. And then we took like 3 or 4 bites out of the apple, all with beautiful Walt Simonson art. And yeah, and that was great. I think we had some.
He was either at your booth. It was at a New York show.
Yeah,
doing signings
yeah.
for the Captain Action packaging, and I had my worst smartphone at the time, a BlackBerry Storm, and it had a terrible camera on it.
Oh no!
And I didn't want to bother Walt, but I wanted to get an action shot of him drawing or signing his name or whatever. So I took it, and it was slightly blurry, and I posted it on Facebook. And the next day at the show, I see Walter, and he's like, "Yeah, nice blurry picture of me, John." Jesus Christ.
Oh.
And I love when, especially a guy like when as I told you, I just saw Walt and Howard Chaykin at Terrificon, and nothing delights me more is when those guys break my balls about something.
Yeah.
So I told you I figured, especially there are 2 bars and an arcade that all have karaoke, and I was trying because about 2 years ago I gathered a bunch of comic book people, not a lot. Cully Hamner came out, Stephanie Phillips came out, and we all went down, and a couple of our friends, and we all went down and we sang. We had a great time. And I'm like, Howard, you got to come out and do karaoke with us this weekend. And he's like, I effing hate karaoke. And I'm like, Howard, you sing at your table at the drop of a hat. All someone has to do is go, Howard, give me a couple lines from My Blue Heaven, and he'll break right into it. And I even told him, I said, Howard, I want you to see me do my deep cut Sinatra song, Zing With the Strings of My Heart. And immediately he went, Dear, when you're near me, and started singing the song. And I'm like, God damn it, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, he's so knowledgeable on the American songbook, that guy. Yeah.
I keep saying I would love for him to do like he did Hey Kids Comics, because he does know all the old backstage Broadway stories.
Right.
And I'm like, how you ought to do a mini series like that. Nah. And I'm like, he's like, John, no one's buying Hey Kids Comics. They're not going to buy Backstreet Broadway. I'm like, I get it. And I understand. And listen, as I'm sure a lot of guys around Howard's age, not to age him in any negative way, but I know talking to other creators, it's like, I got my bucket list. I want to focus on my bucket list before I can't do it anymore.
Sure.
I respect that. So
I get it.
fine.
I get it. But still, what if it'd be so cool? Yeah.
Again, I think, or find a different artist to draw it and just tell the stories. Because I think, God, I loved his. Remember his Rough and Ready that he did? Where
the Hanna-Barbara. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was great.
Almost like that. The 2 comedians, they hate each other, and yeah.
Well, yeah, it was very Martin and Lewis. Like if some young person, if Martin and Lewis were vibrant enough in the modern era to try and respin themselves, and they have this great social media and kind of current pop culture guru helping them guide their careers. And it was very funny, very satiric. And he told me it was really tough to get through the Hanna-Barbera vetting and everything.
Oh, cool.
So I can't imagine what they cut out. But it was pretty sharply tongued for what he did get through and stuff. And it's so funny because apparently, as I'm told anecdotally, Hanna-Barbera hated those crossovers. And it's like, oh my God, Tom King and I forget who the artist was.
Elmer Fudd, Lee Weeks, I think. Yeah.
Right. And exactly. And Batman and Elmer Fudd fighting over Silver St. Cloud. That's like, come on.
Yeah.
Please.
St. Cloud. Yeah. Oh, funny.
Yeah. Unbelievable stuff, man. No, they were, or Hong Kong Fooey at Black Lightning in a 70s black exploitation kung fu movie. It's like, you can't get more perfect than that, man.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed those all immensely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody look for those on eBay. Those are amazing. But also look for these other Captain Action costumes and masks, which I would imagine, like, do you do a limited run, Ed, and then they become that much more collectible?
We do. So we'll do a set run of Rocketeer, and then after that we'll kind of keep a few, and we'll keep selling them as it goes along. We've got some more licensing announcements to announce. A property like Captain Action, I think it's kind of fun because I like the Rocketeer, but I can't wait till you do this character, that character, and we've got some of those coming up. So we're excited to reveal those as well.
Well, that's cool, and I'm glad to hear that you went through Dave Stevens' estate, because I was almost wondering, given what the Rocketeer was based on, that I would imagine Commander Cody, the 50s cliffhanger hero, might be in the public domain. Frankly, I was always waiting for, and maybe they've been put out and I just haven't seen them, a Commander Cody comic book, because it is so close in design to the Rocketeer. It evokes that same pulpy adventure story. And I would think, again, that much like some of the other public domain heroes out there, that if there were ever rights, that they've likely lapsed into public domain.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could do that. I think like part of the thrill of the Rocketeer is, the charm that Stevens brought to it all, right? Like the beautiful artwork and like the girlfriend and the mentor and the planes. And I mean, like the character of Cliff is, kind of like the bumbling everyman. And, like all those things came together so beautifully. And sure, everything's, Batman's inspired by Zorro or, whatever you want to do. And everything's inspired by something. But I think that Rocketeer was really, you could make an argument that really was his own thing, maybe inspired by something, but, took it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I always say that midnight, and I'm sure you and I have discussed it before. That mid-90s movie is was so mismarketed and really blew the opportunity, because it's an excellent movie. The Phantom is interesting to watch because they try hard, but just some things look kind of goofy at times. The Shadow movie, 2/3 of it, I think, are great, but the whole thing kind of also falls apart in a lot of ways. Rocketeer from start to finish, my God. Jennifer Connelly is amazing as Betty. Alan Arkin is amazing as, I forget the
Travis.
The Gizmo guy.
I'm mixing up the Shadow. Yeah, right. Peavy.
Yeah, Peavy. Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Billy Campbell was fantastic as Cliff. Absolutely. Yeah. And then and two great comic book guys made the movie, Bilson and DeMeo.
Right.
Who did the Flag for a while.
James Bond was the bad guy.
Timothy Dalton was the bad guy. Kind of an if Errol Flynn really, because there were always rumors that Errol Flynn was the Nazi.
Yeah, just a few years before that was that Nazi book was published, right? Yep.
No, it's an outstanding movie. Pete Beiser, thank you for joining us tonight, Pete. Jennifer Connelly has aged well. Maybe a movie, not so much. Well, again, I would gently disagree with you, man. I think that's a great movie. But no, she looked amazing in Top Gun Maverick. No, Jennifer Connelly still looks incredible. I wanted to ask you, who did the art here? And also, is there a mini comic along with the figure in the costume?
Yeah. Well, I don't know is that a setup question? So
yes, it is.
Oh yeah. So I did the art on that poster, and that was a lot of fun to do. And
you nailed it, Ed.
What's that?
You nailed it. That's fantastic. It looks truly, Ed. I want to see you draw a full Rocketeer story if there isn't a mini comic along with, because I couldn't remember if there were mini comics with the original run.
We've done, originally there was, and we've done some mini comics, and so we did this illustration kind of like those old 1960s ads, and this was the Dave Stevens' sister said, "Why don't you sell them at San Diego?" And we said, "Sure," and that we sold out. So it was
that's
quite
great
thing, and and I joked that I was just anxious to draw Betty Page, right, the girlfriend.
Sure,
that was the most fun part.
That's a good PG Betty Page right there.
Oh yeah, there's a better panel of like panel 3. Panel 3, I think I made it sing. I should have said. Well, there you go. You can see that
in the background. Yeah, you can see Betty there, and that's a great shot.
Yeah,
and
there
it's
you
the
go.
same shot here. So yeah, that's great. Ed, I'm excited. You gotta send me a PDF of the mini comic. I want to read it.
Oh sure, yeah, I'll give you a poster. We'll send you a poster.
Oh, that'd be great. I'd love that. Oh, I'd absolutely love that. Thank you. You better sign it, being the artist then.
Sure.
Come on.
Sure.
So No, that's great. Well, you saw Dan Reba even, who again he knows his animation and stuff.
Yeah.
And he complimented you.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
you're very kind, Dan. Thank you. You're very, very kind.
That's
And,
cool.
yeah. So, like that project's coming together. We've got old timey Captain Action fans. We have Rocketeer fans. We've got people who like just 1/6 scale figures. And, they're kind of all coming together and they're doing their pre-orders. And, this is going to be a very high quality product. And in fact, like if you could show that picture again, the Rocketeer where he's standing, John, like
I wonder the other one.
yeah, no, that's perfect. So for that one, believe it or not, like we were worried that the jacket was just a smidge short. So we're like retooling it to make the jacket look a little bit bigger. And is that going to sell any more figure? I don't know, but we just want to have the tip top quality. A couple fans said it, and we said, you know what, you're right, and we're going full bore on this one, brother.
Wow. Good for you, man. Well, again, attention to detail. People appreciate that.
Yeah.
No question.
Right.
No question. That's great, man. Well, again, if I were you, I'd be knocking on IDW's door because I know they're the ones who lately have been publishing.
Oh,
Rocketeer comics.
Yeah. No, they do a great job with those Rocketeer comics. We were just cross promoting. Rocketeer Breaks Free is the newest mini series. So much fun. They've created this other female pilot who's like part of the mythology now, and I give them credit for kind of expanding the cast of characters.
Well, and lady aviatrixes were Amelia Earhart and everything, so that kind of fits the era as well.
Right, she's very much in that vein. Yeah,
is she a rival to Cliff?
She was the last time. Now she's a friend. Betty, Peavy, and Cliff go down to her house for Thanksgiving dinner, and then of course a mystery happens.
My buddy Steve Mooney from Ireland, who his fantastic pulp adventure creator-owned series that he does, and I think it's Half Past Danger. I believe that's the title.
Right,
that's coming to mind. He's like, I'm doing the Rocketeer. I'm like, that is so perfect, Steve.
Yeah, he created that character, and he like did the last. I guess he's like the main guy who's writing it now, not doing the art. But yeah, the Great Race was that one with the character. Now it's Rocketeer Breaks Free. So yeah, great comics, great fun, and a lot of good stuff.
Are you making announcements at New York? Are you gonna or a different convention? When are the next announcements regarding Captain Action?
Oh, sure. Out? We used to love New York so much, and I helped start that convention when I was at Reed Elsevier in its sophomore year, and holy smokes, they used to give us sweetheart deals on exhibiting and doing a million panels, and now we've kind of drifted away. So I have so much fun at Heroes Con in Charlotte and still San Diego and smaller shows, and so we won't be at New York, but we're looking to make an announcement right around that time, probably the right before or right after. And we've got, just to tease any of the fans who are watching, we've got some announcements that people have been waiting for, and then we've got one that's like batshit crazy, and it's gonna, explode their minds that they hadn't thought about that, but it makes all the sense in the world. So it'll be really
cool,
all the sense in the world.
That's great. That's great to hear, man. Yeah. No, again, there's a lot of heroes out there you can exploit, and God, I love watching those old Captain Action commercials and stuff. And like I told you, man, I was slightly too old for Mego, but I was absolutely a Captain Action guy. And I told you, not only did I have his figure, but that I could play two heroes at the same time. My sister abandoned her slightly taller Ken doll, and I stretched the Aquaman uniform on Ken. Ken would play Aquaman, and Captain Action would play the Lone Ranger.
All right. Those were good. What a great team up. That's a great adventure.
I guess Water and horseback. All right, whatever.
Works for me. I mean,
but it was, hey man, I loved it.
Fun. Yeah, that's the fun.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful.
Well, and again, they evoke the memories of the Aurora model kits of our youth, and there were so many great things to get, like that GI Joe certainly as well, and all the great GI Joe stuff. I as I always point out, Ed, and I say this with love, it does kind of crack me up that there is this kind of rivalry between Captain Action size action figures and the Mego guys. And I know that despite that difference, you are friends with Art Baltazar, who is my resident Mego expert.
Absolutely. I love Artie too. He's absolutely wrong when he says Mego are better, but he's a fantastic individual.
Is there a fandom that is built around Captain Action that, like the Mego people, have upon their own created costumes, custom costumes, or even with 3D printers, are they capable of making a Captain Action style mask?
Yeah. We had a lot of customizers. In fact, we a few years ago we ran like a customization contest and did the judging at San Diego for good guys, and then the next year we did bad guys, and
fun
creating these like one kid won this created this beautiful Dr. Fate outfit that was just phenomenal. And bad guys would like Red Skull when people would come up with the mask, and that I mean that's where it gets to be a lot of fun. And
well, again, because of Artie, I've learned more about the Migos side, and my God, some of the sculpts that these guys will make and then 3D print duplicates of, and oh my God, it's like you want a Buster Crab Flash Gordon head for your Mego, we can do that. You want a Christopher Reeve looking, or even a Brandon Routh. Another guy that you should get in touch with who does great custom action figures is the comic book artist. He's in Portland, Ibrahim Mustafa. And oh man, if you follow him on Instagram, he does these incredible action figures that he customizes, and he did a Christian Bale Bruce Wayne, and a Daniel Craig James Bond. Just amazing stuff.
Wayne Foucher, great inker, longtime DC inker who's also a 1/6 enthusiast, and he makes like Lost in Space characters and photographs it all flawlessly, and it's all just gorgeous.
That's another PDF that you sent me. It was an earlier Retro Fan, and it was a great joint article about Mark Goddard and Kristen.
What's her name? Mark.
Judy Robinson.
Beautiful actress. Yeah.
Oh my God, and still as an old lady, still stunning. Still beautiful.
Right.
Name on me that I don't remember. I shared a limo back from an Orlando convention that I did, and after the show to the airport, and it was funny because we were all in the back seat, and we were with the very beautiful Serena Vincent, and Serena Vincent is in Not Another Teen Movie and does the parody of Shannon Elizabeth from American Pie, and she's the foreign exchange student that's naked throughout the whole movie. And they appropriately will shoot her so you don't see the good bits. But she was lovely. Well, we were all focused on Serena, and we weren't paying attention. It was sitting next to the driver in the front seat, and it was Mark Goddard. And I'm like, oh, man, I could have talked to Major West. What's wrong with
him? And I had a moment with him in the early 90s. It must have been like 95 or 96. Small convention in New York, and I dragged my daughter Cassie, who was into Pokemon. It was like the first burst of Pokemon, and his daughter was also doing Pokemon. So I'm like talking with Major West, we're moaning and groaning about our daughters and Pokemon. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I can't believe I'm talking to Major West about this household dad thing. It was just lovely.
That's funny. Dan Reba, a couple comments. First of all, Marta Kristen was Judy Robinson, and Dan says apparently Bruce Timm made him a Shadow. I'm assuming custom head, and he made Bruce a Solomon Kane custom head. That's very cool.
Wow, what a trade!
Very cool.
What a trade!
Good stuff, man.
Did you get that?
No, I love that.
Shadow knows. Yeah, that's tough.
Absolutely, man. Very, very cool. Yeah, that another great character that Captain Action should consider, obviously, is the Shadow.
Yeah, big Shadow fans here. Tell you what, absolutely,
You
absolutely.
know, and I'm glad you're doing the Rocketeer, and I'm glad IDW is at least putting out current Rocketeer material. And again, that design, I'll show it again, is so classic. And I think this is a conversation we've had before, Ed. I'm always worried about some of the older licensed properties that if they're not used, they fall into obscurity and people don't know them. And I would bet that a good majority of the nerd culture that is under 40 might know the Lone Ranger, may not know the Lone Ranger.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're not watching the black and white reruns or even the color episodes because it's old timey TV to them.
yeah,
But and the Army Hammer Johnny Depp movie certainly didn't succeed.
yeah.
So
Well,
I don't know.
I just got interviewed as like, comic book historian, which I put big quotes around, by this wonderful woman in your business, podcaster. She does the Decoder Ring podcast. And what they do is they take a topic and then they do a deep dive. So it was all about Warren Beatty, and they had to talk about Dick Tracy and his new stuff. And her thing was like, who is this Dick Tracy? And what was the deal? And here you go. 80 years later, it's like, yeah, nobody knows Dick Tracy. Amazing.
No, and literally yanked from the current headlines of the day. It was inspired by Capone and the
Right.
feds going after Capone, and that's who Big Boy Caprice, one of his chief bad guys, was based
Yeah.
on. And no, I hear you, man. Well, and even sadly, the couple things that Warren has done in the last few years to maintain the copyright
Yeah.
are just bizarre little, personal things. I mean, I saw the last one on Turner Classic Movies where Warren Beatty interviews himself as Dick Tracy, and even Ben Mankiewicz, in setting up the segment, is like, "Okay, this is a little weird, and it's probably one of the weirdest things we've ever run on Turner Classic Movies." And it was, and it's. I mean, I don't know if he's doing this out of spite
Well,
because it's
yeah.
not like he's mounting a new Tracy movie anytime soon, and he's in his 80s. He's not getting any younger.
Yeah, I don't I think that's what I think that was the basis of the Decoder Ring episode, like asking those very questions that
Sure.
you asked, like what is going on and why did he do this? And so yeah, it's a little bananas, but between Captain Action stuff and the retro fan, I mean, it is a way to shine a light on some of these well-loved properties, the properties that deserve it. And I guess, sometimes things maybe they don't deserve it, but if there's a good story to be told, it's great to bring them forward and tell it.
Would you ever collect the mini comics that you've made? Are you able to do that, or because of the rights and the licensing of each one, it might be challenging? But could you put together a Captain Action graphic novel of all the mini comics?
Well, we did 2 years ago. We did a beautiful collection of the DC series from with IDW and Scott Van
Yes.
Beer, and that was so much fun, and we were so proud of it. And in the back matter, we were able to put some of those mini comics, but not all. And I mean, and that very first Captain Action mini comic is like the first crossover where it's got DC property, national Marvel properties, and then Green Hornet and Buck
Lone
Rogers,
Ranger.
and there were a lot of licensees. And I spoke to Stan Weston just a couple of years before he died, the guy who created it, and he told me they would like be riding around New York in cabs, and the admins, the secretaries would like type up a contract on carbon paper, and they'd both sign there was no legal looking over. And that's how they put together those deals, which you could never do today. Just beautiful stuff.
That reminds me when I talked to Joe Satriani, the fantastic '80s guitarist who still makes amazing music today, and I asked him about the album cover and song cover for his song "Surfing with the Alien," which is this great classics, if not Buscema, Kirby, Silver
Right.
Surfer image. And I'm like, how much did that cost the record company? And he's like, oh, it was nothing. It was like, only a couple $1,000s to do it. And I'm like, oh, can you imagine today
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to get that license from Marvel? Good luck. Good
Yeah,
luck.
forget it. You want to use it for what? Yeah. Or
Yeah.
just
Well, sure.
endlessly, we want to
Yeah.
hear it. We want to have approval. Yeah. Oh, God.
I know I'm friends with an artist who worked in the special division for Marvel and would end up drawing the Spider-Man macaroni and cheese boxes for Kraft and all
Oh,
these
wow.
other products where they would tie into Marvel in some way. And I'm like, oh, it'd be great to talk to you about it on the podcast. He's like, I can't. And I go, why? And he's like, non-disclosure agreements. I'm like, Jesus, I'm sorry. I get it. But, because he's like, well, I'd still like to do the podcast. I'm like, but if you can't talk about that, then I'm sorry. I'm kind of at a loss. I'm like, I'm sure you have great comics that you want to talk about. I go, but, that the
Yeah.
fun would be hearing about the licensing stories and stuff. But
Yeah. Yeah. I know another fellow. I don't think it's the same guy, but he's a fellow who worked for Marvel and did a lot of that stuff. He did like the box for the short-lived Spider-Man cereal, and he's the same way. He can't talk about it. He's like, I had him speak to some of my students via Zoom, and it's like, Ed, you can't record this. There's no recording, and same thing. Okay, that's fine.
sure.
I
No, I get
appreciate
it. Hey, man, I haven't listened to it yet, but I know Jamie Covell was at San Diego and doing the great job that he does at every convention he goes to. I try to do the same with the panels that I do at
Yeah.
conventions, record them for Word Balloon. But he, every year, man, always has everything. And he has your spotlight panel that you moderated for Don McGregor.
Oh,
How was that?
fantastic. Oh, my gosh. Well, so I knew Don a little bit, and I was always like the biggest fanboy. And he came, believe it or not, a guy was doing this convention in my town, and I wasn't associated with it. And Don was the guest. And I said, I'd love to, interview Don. And okay, great. So I interview him, and everything kind of went wrong on that convention. Like Don comes in late Thursday night, and the hotel is screwed up, and he calls me because I'm the only guy new in the town. And so we helped him out. And it went from being like, oh man, it's like 11:30. I got to go help this, comics professional out, to like, we had so much fun, and like, it was an epic weekend. And my favorite year always reminded me of.
Sure.
Right. So I had my favorite year moment with Don McGregor. And then he asked me to moderate his panel for in New York. And it turned into like my favorite year, part two. We had so much fun, and Don is such a character, and like everything he did, you're crying and you're laughing and you can't believe it. And we had a ball, and I think like for the panel we did was great, but when they do the Eisners for the older pros, they don't do it at night anymore. They do the ceremony smaller in the middle of the day. And there were all these great people getting interviewed, and it was really cool, especially for someone like you, who knows their comic history. And then Don gets going, and he starts getting wound up, and they start kind of like tapping him on the shoulder, like, okay, Tom. And that just gets him going more and more. And then the crowd starts going, and he's got everybody, and we're like ready to follow him, through any jungle he picks. And it was glorious. And yeah, every moment with Don was something to be treasured. He is quite the guy, just a fantastic individual.
Well, and vastly underrated, because his career was really impactful in a lot of ways beyond the Marvel work, beyond Black Panther. You think of his creator-owned stuff like Saber and Detective Inc.
Oh, all that stuff. Saber, like, first independent graphic novel out there. The Nathaniel Dusk, the Zorro stuff. Lady Rawhide was super big. There's a lot out there.
Yeah. No, he was amazing. He really, and still is. I don't know. if he's, does he write anymore, or is he definitely retired?
Yeah. He's launching like a young Saber thing, and the interesting thing about his career is he's like a very principled individual, like super principled, and that led him to some conflicts, and that led him to like being fired from Marvel because he thought interracial kisses should be a thing, and the people at the time thought that was awful, and he stood his ground, and now full circle, now they herald him as like an outstanding creator. He gets his due, but he's got all the scars to show from the old days.
Oh, 100%. And also, truly, and I mean this, and forgive me, everybody, because I know it's a middle-aged white guy saying this, and I'm saying it, not Ed, so should Bounding Into Comics or Bleeding Cool decide to take my words out of context, it's me saying this. Don really gets his due from a lot of the Black creators who have since worked on Black Panther. Christopher Priest, Afua Richardson, Ta-Nehisi Coates, they all give it up to Don and saying how important Don was in expanding on the mythos beyond what Lee and Kirby initially did with the Black Panther, expanding Wakanda, a lot of the rules about the world of Wakanda and Black Panther, and that's great. And Don did it with nothing but meaningful and intended respect to make this character an important character, and he succeeded.
Oh yeah, all the time. And in fact, he did his first run was in Africa, Wakanda, and mostly Black people. And then he tells the tale how the powers that be said you got to have some white people in. So then he, of course, Don McGregor style, he brings Black Panther to the U.S. and has them fight the Klan, and he's like, okay, there's your white people, and it's this amazing story all about racism and all the awfulness of the Klan, and that's the type of guy he is and was.
Absolutely, Don was fighting the good fight even in the 70s. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, bud.
Yeah.
Well, again, dude, I'm really happy for you. I'm very excited of what we can expect in the pages of Retro Fan. This is Mike Urie's last issue, and it comes out in September. And I don't know, you don't have any stories in this one, Ed?
No, that one I had the lightest of touches. I think I might have looked it over the last time before the proofing. so that one doesn't have anything for me. The very next one with Space Ghost on the cover. I started, I was kind of like in training for a few months. Thank God, as Michael really was super patient to show me the ropes, and now we're going from there. So it's all good.
Okay. So November of 24, that'll be the issue date.
Correct.
And again,
it's actually on sale October, November. Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, and we'll remind people they can go to tomorrows.com, order directly from the publisher, and you can either get a hard copy or you can get a PDF. I buy many issues of my Tomorrows reading as digital copies, and I am not disappointed. They read very nicely on my iPad, and they look great. And then also the other big news, of course, is the partnership with LBO and these updates and the evolution of Captain Action to these current action figures. And of course, we're all looking forward to, and you can pre-order now, the Rocketeer stuff for Captain Action, jetpack included.
There you go.
So yeah, no, it looks great, man.
Yeah, well, good. Well, John, it's always, we're very grateful. You're always very kind. It's so much fun to talk to you as usual. Thank you. And this has been a ball.
Ed, you're a great friend, and you always have been. And
likewise,
I appreciate anytime I can help, as I tell everybody, put the bat signal up and I'll come running. So
thank
fear
you.
not.
Thank
now,
you.
If you will, Ed, excuse me, I'm going to check on my phone to confirm whether. Hold on. Okay, so that's it for tonight's Word Balloon. Tomorrow we're going to take a night off. Thursday we're going to come back with a couple shows. I've got my usual sci-fi weekly roundup, and we'll get a Terrificon report card from Mitch Halleck, the owner of Terrificon. Franco will be with us as well. Wayne will be with us, and we'll all give our anecdotes about Terrificon. We'll talk about Batman Cape Crusader. Franco and I are taking our time with Star Trek Prodigy because we're loving it so much, but we'll talk about that. I'll have watched several episodes of Only Murders in the Building by then, And then later on Thursday night, Brian Bendis coming back for a nice long talk on word balloon, a very late night word balloon, because that's the way Brian rolls.
I love those. Yeah, those are always great ones.
You'll catch it. You'll catch the rerun because you'll be well in bed, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'll be with you guys.
When does school start?
It's already started. Yeah, we had a couple classes start Thursday, Friday, and we officially started on Monday. So we're in the thick of it already.
Excellent. And yeah, at the very least, if Ed is not back to give us updates on what's happening with Retro Fan and Captain Action, he'll be back in time for next year's Ithacon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. We're beginning of April next year. It'll be fun.
Sounds good, buddy. Well, thanks for everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. Fantastic questions. Until next time, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.